Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 27 is already at Beta 3, and Apple seems to be listening to years of complaints and nailing iOS 27 early on. Apple continues focusing on bug fixes, stability, and improvements, and it looks like iOS 27 finally did it, fixing many of the complaints we've had, and it's looking very promising. In this video, we'll talk about the latest Apple news, many new features, and the overall experience. Not just my experience, but your experience based off the YouTube community poll on the post page, where at the time of this video there's over 16,000 votes and 192 comments, and I've gone over all the comments to determine what the update is like for most of us, so be sure to stick around toward the end of the video where I'll read some of your comments as well. Now, Apple continues to refine iOS 27 like I mentioned, but is still working to run larger AI models on their iPhone without offloading it to a data center. Apple has apparently been in talks with Prism ML about using their technology to give more functionality from larger models to iPhones according to the information. So we could see the larger models run directly on the iPhone if we have enough RAM, and this would mean that we wouldn't have to offload as much information maybe to Google's data centers or Apple's private cloud compute centers. So that's something we could see in the near future. Apple is now suing OpenAI. They've actually said that they're stealing trade secrets to use in their own products. Apple recently said that at Apple, our teams are constantly developing breakthrough technologies to create the best products and services in the world, and protecting their work and intellectual property is something we take very seriously. Recently, significant evidence has emerged suggesting individuals employed by OpenAI wrongfully took Apple's secret and confidential information regarding our unreleased technologies, processes, and products. We will always defend our team's hard work and innovation, and we are taking all appropriate steps to do so. So this is something that's ongoing, and we'll have to see what the result is in a little while. Apple this week strangely removed the option to restore or downgrade iPhone 5C and a few other legacy devices on Thursday. They've since restored the ability to restore the older devices on updates such as iOS 10.3.3 and the last updates for the other devices, such as the iPhone 4, 4S, 5, 5C, iPad 2, iPad 3rd generation, iPad 4th generation, and original iPad mini. However, as of right now, some of those devices will not activate properly if you restore them, so you may want to hold off if maybe you were thinking of playing around with one of the older devices or restoring it if you had an issue. I would hold off on that, as it looks like, according to RNP613, some of the activation services are not working properly. So hopefully that will be restored soon or by the time you're watching this video. Apple this week also did something they normally don't do, where they mention the next version of macOS before the next version that we're going to see is even out. In the new support document published by Apple, they've actually said that the macOS 28 update will remove support for encrypted HFS Plus extended volumes. This means any external drive using HFS Plus and that is encrypted will need to be formatted to be no longer encrypted, or you would need to use something such as APFS, which is encrypted by default. Why they're making the change seems to be unknown, but they are giving plenty of time to manage your data and get it ready for the next update. But it's very rare or unheard of that they actually mention something that's not even out or hasn't even been shown yet. So they specifically mention macOS 28 or later from next year. Apple has released their MLB schedule for Friday Night Baseball on Apple TV. You'll see on their Apple newsroom here where it says Apple and Major League Baseball announce August Friday Night Baseball schedule. So if you watch this regularly, you can see the schedule here with things such as August 7th, August 21st, for example, and others. So I'll link it in the description if you want to check out the newsroom article yourself and see the latest schedule. Now, when it comes to features, iOS 27 now shows more vehicles gaining Apple Car Key support in the near future. This is something I've used for quite a while in Apple Wallet, and you can see this is my car here. It makes it super convenient. I don't have to use a separate app necessarily, and it just unlocks when I walk up, and you can tie it to your Apple Watch, so if maybe you're not using your phone, you can walk up, unlock your car with your watch. We don't know exactly when these will be updated, but it looks like it's coming to Lucid and Xiaomi very soon. So whether that's the Lucid Air and Lucid Gravity, we don't know. I would suspect the Lucid Gravity and then some of the other Xiaomi cars as well. Apple has also released the Apple Account Card in 5 new countries. It's now available in Cyprus, Hungary, New Zealand, Romania, and Slovakia. So this is something that's available. I don't use it a whole lot, but you can pay with your iPhone in the Apple Store, shop online, or buy app subscriptions and other services with it. Now, with iOS 27 Beta 3, Apple brought back the indexing notification, but it actually said something a little bit different, and I showed that in the previous What's New video. However, it looks like after a day or so of processing, many people were actually seeing a percentage show up, and I posted this on X here, where you'll see here it says optimizing Siri and search 94%. So this was sent in by a viewer that was having this pop up, then it went away, and then it showed back up a day later and continues to go away and show back up. So this may be a bug at this point, but I'm glad that they've added the percentage, and it seemed to complete in about a day or two for most people. Now, AirPods Adaptive Audio had an update this week, something I missed in the What's New video. So if we maybe place the AirPods Pro 3 in my ear, I wanted to share that with you. So if we go into our settings here, we'll go into our AirPods Pro 3, and you'll see if we go into Adaptive Audio, let me place the other AirPod in my ear as well. So if we go into Adaptive Audio here, we have a different slider. We can actually bring it more transparent or more close to noise cancellation. So you can adjust this, and this is something I've mentioned before, where many people do an update to their AirPods and say that noise cancellation has been worse. However, there's this adaptive mode that sometimes gets confused for noise cancellation. So that's completely separate, and if you want to cancel all noise or switch to adaptive, at least you have some adjustability now. Now, if we place our phone maybe on a dock here, this one's from Belkin. Let's go ahead and place it into standby mode. So we'll lock it here, see if it will go into standby. There we go. And if we activate Siri, it now shows the actual bubble here. So let's go ahead and do that. And you'll see the new marble animation where before it was just a microphone. This is now showing up properly where it wasn't before. So that's something new in beta 3. Also, to go along with Siri, there's some changes here. If we go down into screen time, within screen time under content and privacy restrictions, we now have the word Siri instead of Apple Intelligence in Siri. And if we go into this, it's a new menu compared to beta 2. So this is beta 2 on the left, beta 3 on the right, and you'll see a bunch of different options here where we can go allowed Siri version, change it to the classic or don't allow, and then you'll see all new icons or glyphs next to every specific option, such as sensitive topics, image recreation or creation, realistic images, and more. Siri is also integrating better with third-party apps. You can ask maybe the charge of an electric car or what the fuel level is in your car. What's the fuel level in my car?
Your car from which app?
And if we tap on one here,
It is 99% full.
and it tells you the actual fuel level. Now, this doesn't work in all apps. There's other cars I've tried it with, and it doesn't seem to work. But it does seem to work with things such as Ford, the one I showed you here, and a few others. So that's something we'll see more and more as Siri grows. And of course, we get app updates that are compatible with iOS 27. Within accessibility, we finally have a new option for live recognition. This is one of the features that was shown off with iOS 27 before it released to the public with Accessibility Awareness Day. So you can see it here. It says ask, default question, you have preferred input, use volume buttons to recapture, and you have a bunch of different options if you want to use live recognition for what's on your display now. Something else that's new with accessibility, and it's not necessarily new to beta 3, but it's something I haven't mentioned before, is if we have the accessibility shortcut here and we tap on it, it's now a list. Before, it was a little bit different than this. Also, there's a new accessibility control. So if we cancel this here, maybe search for a new control for our control center here, go all the way down to accessibility. There's a new option to show borders. So this is a new accessibility control. So if we turn this on, it sort of highlights things, puts more borders around everything. If I turn it back off, you'll see that some of those borders go away. So it just makes them more apparent. If we go into settings, and this time we go under photos, within photos, if we scroll down to our view options, there's now a new option to show ratings controls. It says display star ratings on photos and videos and show the ratings badge on thumbnails. This wasn't here on beta 2. If we go into messages and maybe you have a couple different emoji together, you'll now get the option to combine them. If we tap on combine, it will then bring you into Genmoji and then combine those two emoji. And you'll see here, it's a fast car. It shows some leaves around it. I'm not sure that that's the best, but it says car, gust of wind. And then we can use that within our message here. And it created an all new emoji right there. If maybe we copy those emoji that we just created along with the others and go into something such as notes, it now says item instead of the actual thing you're pasting. And sometimes this just gives code here. So this is something that will probably be updated in the next beta, but we can paste it and it recognized it as an item. But again, that should change to what we had before. Now, also many people were saying that they changed the icons on the lock screen down at the bottom to remove liquid glass and make them less transparent. However, I'm not seeing that, and I believe that's a bug. I haven't seen it on any of these. You'll see I'm in dark mode currently. Even if I switch to light mode, you'll see it changes a little bit, but it's still liquid glass here. So I'm not seeing that effect that most people are seeing, and I believe this will be fixed very soon, as that's probably a bug. Also, if you go into Maps and then you navigate somewhere for the first time, you'll get a new little pop-up, and I took a screenshot of it, and it says, route preferences have moved. Set arrival or departure times, avoid tolls, and more from options. So now there's a new options icon, and you can tap on that to change those preferences. Also, according to Aaron P613 on iOS 27, there's now a new notification if you view your screen from a new device hub on macOS. It will let you know that this device was viewed remotely from Mac. Also, if you're using shortcuts and maybe not all of them have synced properly, if we go into our shortcut setting here, you may see a little notice here that actually says your shortcuts on this device aren't currently in your library, and it will give you the option to sync it. So I haven't had that pop up, but I've seen that online. When it comes to app updates this week, there's not a whole lot to talk about. However, Nintendo is discontinuing Mario Kart Tour. They've said on their website that service for the Mario Kart Tour game for smart devices will come to an end as of 11 p.m. Pacific on September 29th. So keep that in mind if you play it. It looks like that support's going to end. Also, the app Pocket Cast. This is an app I've used for quite some time. I haven't used it recently, but it's a podcast player, but I may start using it again as now chapter artwork is in Apple CarPlay. So you'll see that they have the liquid glass update, but also now there's quite a few updates with many more controls and much more. It just had a big update a few days ago. Now, as far as releases this week, there's a couple things worth mentioning. One of them has to do with AirPods Pro and other updates with AirPods with the new beta update. So we've had a beta update before. Let's see if this one is updated. I actually haven't checked it, but if we go into AirPods Pro 3, scroll down, you'll see that I'm on this version, which is actually the latest version, 9A314B. So it should match with the case version. It may take a couple days to do that, but this particular update, again, is AirPods firmware beta. If you have the beta enabled, it will be for those devices in the beta. So AirPods Pro 3, AirPods Pro 2, AirPods 4, and AirPods 4 with active noise cancellation, and AirPods Max 2. That's currently what's supported. As far as updates this week, well, we really don't know exactly what Apple has planned. However, I do suspect we could see iOS 27 Beta 3 re-release and possibly a public beta. If we don't see that, we could see maybe nothing this week for iOS 27. They could skip this week, but we really don't know at this point. However, if we take a look back at previous years, most years it does release the public beta sometime around the 12th to the 18th. So that's what I would expect at this point. However, we could see it the following week. That's what they did last year, but hopefully we'll see it this week. If we get a re-release or something along those lines, hopefully we'll find out if we get the public beta. I would also expect iOS 26.6 RC or release candidate this coming week, with a public release of iOS 26.6 in a couple weeks, maybe on the 20th here. Also, as far as the iOS 27 public release, of course, we'll have betas throughout the summer, and usually that takes place around mid-September. So maybe the third week of September, we'll see iOS 27 released to the public. We don't have exact dates yet, but that's typically around when we'll see it, the second or third week at this point. When it comes to the next iPhone 18 Pro Max could be the heaviest and thickest iPhone in some time. According to Ice Universe, they said that the iPhone 18 Pro Max will be about 9 millimeters thick, which is 0.25 millimeters thicker than the current iPhone 17 Pro Max, and also it could weigh as much as 240 grams, or about 7 grams more than the current phone. This sort of lines up with rumors that the iPhone 18 Pro Max could get a huge battery at 5,567 milliamp hours with the eSIM option, so maybe that's what they're making room for, maybe a few additional technologies, maybe even better cooling. We just don't know at this point. When it comes to the overall experiences this week, let's first talk about AirPods Pro 3. They've been pretty great this week, up to about today. I was editing a video and I had it disconnect from my Mac. I had to put them back in the case, close it, reconnect them, and then it worked fine. That's the only issues I've had, but that was with the Mac, and that's on the current public release. With the beta, I've had zero issues. I've been using it with the Vision Pro as well as the MacBook, and when it's connected that way, it works fine. But again, just sometimes when I'm editing, it sort of breaks apart, and I have to put them back in the case and sort of reset them, and then they work fine. When it comes to the overall experience with iOS 27 Beta 3, Apple is really nailing it this time. They're listening to customer feedback, responding to feedback, and also it's getting much better, much faster this time. So this is great news, and the first thing that's been fixed, according to many of you, is the physical volume keys. It looks like they've resolved that issue from Beta 2, that it's now working properly. Also, iMessages, where it syncs in the cloud, is now working properly again. The system indexing, again, is brief. It's better. It's not perfect, but that will probably get better with the next beta, and the Wi-Fi connectivity issues from earlier seem to be resolved for most people. I only saw one incident where I went outside and it disconnected. Maybe I walked too far away from my Wi-Fi hotspot. I don't really think I did from my access point, but it did disconnect. I had to reconnect and it was fine. But I've only seen that once, and most people say there's no issues now. The overall smoothness, again, has improved for a lot. That doesn't mean it's perfect, but it's definitely very smooth. Occasionally you'll get some stuttering or lag, but it's very, very rare. Swiping home, if I lock the device, unlock it, swipe up, swipe over, that's where you would see lag on iOS 26. Most of the lag is gone, especially on newer devices. Now, as far as bugs that are remaining, the settings bug does remain, but it looks like Apple's responding to this. I got some feedback from someone that actually heard back from Apple that they said they submitted feedback and Apple responded saying it should be fixed soon. So if settings isn't showing up for you, or you have to sort of close it out, go back in, and then it works again, it seems like they're aware and it's going to be fixed soon. Also, CarPlay is working better, but it's still dropping out for me. It does seem to reconnect much faster this time around, but texting through CarPlay still fails using Siri. So that's something they still need to work on. There's a few people online, as well as someone that messaged me directly named Dakota, that actually said that their speakers are crackling from time to time, playing different media where it wouldn't before. So that's something that seems to need to be fixed. Also, messages sometimes loads blank for me. I'll open messages, it would be blank, and then it will load. If I close it out, just like settings, then it reloads and works fine. Music Automix is still not working for some people. It's working fine for me, but again, some people are seeing it grayed out even in the options. Also, the screen time widget is either blank or not working for some. And of course, the wallpaper dimming bug is there. So let's get rid of these notifications here. You'll see how vibrant it is. Swipe home and it's not as vibrant. It's pretty close, but it's definitely more noticeable in beta 3 than it was before. With iOS 26.6 beta 4, there's not a whole lot to talk about, but there are more people this time around saying that it stutters a little more. It's okay on some of the newer devices, again, locking, unlocking, swiping up, scrolling over. That's still an issue. The wallpaper bug seems to be mostly fixed for most people. However, it does have a big improvement in heat and thermals, and many people have better battery life here. Of course, many people using iOS 26.5.2 say it's okay. It's working fine for most people, but again, it's just not as smooth and as fast as what we're seeing with iOS 27. And of course, there's still those iOS 18 holdouts. Many people want to try that out for a while, wait to see if iOS 27 is as fast and smooth as possible, and then maybe they'll upgrade. So we'll have to wait and see. Of course, that will take a few months once it's released to the public, and if it's great, then they'll probably update. But iOS 18 is still what many people want to stay on if they're a little bit nervous about that. Also, to go along with iOS 27, I've linked in the description below App Compatibility that's there on Reddit every year, and that's something if you are wondering whether or not maybe your banking apps are working or something along those lines, you can check out and see if people have reported them working properly or not with the current beta. So again, I'll link that in the description. When it comes to overall heat and thermals, let's go ahead and run benchmarks again, and let's see what we get as far as heat on the devices. So I'll run it on 26.6 beta 4 and 27 beta 3. With iOS 27 beta 3 on the iPhone 17 Pro Max at the hottest point, we're right around 37.5 degrees Celsius. And on the iPhone 17 Pro Max on iOS 26.6 beta 4, we're right around 34 degrees Celsius. So definitely a little bit cooler at the same point running benchmarks. Now, benchmarks completed, and they're actually not very good right now, and this is what I'm finding more and more. If I run this again, you'll see different numbers, but let's go ahead and take a look at the best numbers we've seen. For example, on beta 3, we'll take a look here. These are some of the best numbers, and the best numbers I've seen on this one was July 6th. So you'll see 3,883 for single core compared to 3,774, and then 9,864 compared to 9,531. Now that doesn't mean a whole lot. That's basically within the margin of error technically. However, we're seeing better smoothness on iOS 27 despite the lower benchmarks. When it comes to overall battery life, I've been using iOS 27 beta 3 full-time on my iPhone 17 Pro Max, but first let's take a look at someone else's battery. Thanks to Boxy for sending this in. This is on an iPhone 17 Pro Max with 100% battery health on iOS 27 beta 3. They had 5 hours and 28 minutes of screen active time, 2 hours and 32 minutes of screen idle time, and used 65% of the battery. I'm actually getting a little bit better battery life finally than that. So if we take a look at my battery, we'll go to battery health, and you'll see I'm at 100% capacity with 131 cycles. Now, Coconut Battery cannot currently read the information here, as Apple seems to have blocked it for now. Maybe they'll change that in the future, but basically we don't get any more information than we have right here. As far as the actual battery life, we'll take a look at usage, and yesterday I had 4 hours and 41 minutes of screen active time, 1 hour and 2 minutes of screen idle time, and used 71% of the battery. The day before, 4 hours and 30 minutes using 75%. So you'll see I only charged once, and it's doing quite well for me. This is actually better than I was getting before. If we go back a week or so, you'll see I was only getting under 2 hours using 55% of the battery. So it's definitely improved for me. Now, as far as the overall experience and what you had to say, let's take a look at some of your comments. Nate W1302 said, I'm running iOS 27 Dev Beta 3 on my iPhone 17 Pro Max, and it's been phenomenal. Battery gets me easily throughout the day, very little if any stutters, and no apparent bugs that bother me. I highly recommend trying it out and can't wait for Beta 4. Acrylic says, Beta 3 is so smooth for me, and there's even a progress indicator for indexing for me. I can't wait for the public release since iOS 27 has been more stable than iOS 26 for me, and most importantly, my battery has been great and device has been cool on my iPad Pro M4 and iPhone 17 Pro Max. Sam David H said, went from 26.5.2 to 27 Beta 3. It's smoother with similar battery performance, with indexing finishing within a day on my pretty full 13 mini. Breathes new life into my phone. Kenneth Booth 3529 said, 27 Beta 3 on 17 Pro Max. Everything seems to be running quite well. I only have 2 issues. 1, battery drain. I'm using 60% of my battery, where I was only using 20% with the same activity. Lots of heat when charging. The thing heats up bad to the point you can't use the phone when charging without it stopping the charge until it cools down. Marcos Kodas says, iOS 27 Beta 3 on 14 Pro, 85% battery health. Trucking along fine, keyboard is a bit slow, and the bug for automation shortcuts is not working, introduced in Beta 2 is still there. Overall, still better than anything I had on 26. Now, with those on iOS 26.5.2, I think most of them are waiting for the next update. You want something stable that just fixes battery life and, of course, stability and gets rid of many of those stutters. With iOS 26.6, it looks like it's taken a while to get to the point where it's mostly stutter-free, but there's still some stutters that remain that seem to be fixed with iOS 27. So I think most of us are just looking forward to Apple releasing iOS 27 to the public, as it's just taken far too long to get to a good point with iOS 26. But iOS 27 just keeps getting better. It's fixed the majority of issues with stutter, lag, battery life for many, especially for an early beta. Apps are nice and fast, things are smooth, going into the control center, and everything else, including ProMotion, seems to be much better than it was in previous updates. Just scrolling home like this wouldn't really work that fast in previous versions for me. So it looks like they've come a long way and really resolved most of the issues that we've been seeing with iOS 26, and it looks like iOS 27 will be a very good update if things continue on this path. So that's everything with iOS 27 Beta 3, iOS 26.6 Beta 4, and iOS 26.5.2. I'm really looking forward to iOS 27's public beta release, where it gets more stability and, of course, more refinement than we're already seeing with early betas. Let me know how it's going for you in the comments below, and of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already, though, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.